2010 Radnor Township Shade Tree Commission meeting. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. The first one being 704 Woodcrest Circle. Is there representation here tonight? And could you please identify yourself and the firm you're with?
Yes, hi, my name is Rob Lambert. I'm with Site Engineering Concepts here for Mr. and Mrs. Sotheby.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Mr. Sotheby couldn't make it tonight.
Okay. Could you explain your project?
Sure, the plan on the, as it's projected, is a little bit washed out, so I handed out small 11 by 17 versions also.
Right.
There's going to be an addition to the rear of the house, some small patio work out back, which is not going to impact any trees, or we're going to limit the impact of trees in the back. None will be removed. There will be a detached garage constructed and a small driveway addition to accommodate that detached garage. And then to the left of where that would be, if you were facing the house, actually it would be to the right. To the top of the page is Woodcrest Circle. To the top of the page is also north. So to the west or left side, there's one existing oak tree that will need to be removed in order to do the grading. Although the oak tree itself is not within, but the roots, and we've consulted with 2 different arborists to see if there's anything we could do to save the tree. In the plan that you have in front of you, it actually shows the 18-inch beech at the rear of the proposed garage also being removed, but in discussions with the arborist, they feel that that tree can remain. We modified the grading to eliminate grading closer to the tree. They're going to change the structure of the garage, so instead of having a wood structure come down, we're actually going to be filling on side of the garage a little bit, just so we don't have to cut out as much. So we're going to limit the grading back there to save the beech, but the oak tree will need to be removed. And in replacement of the one oak tree, we will be planting, the owner would like to plant 3 white oaks.
The beech that's now being saved, that in the one plan showed coming out, I'm having trouble reading what the change is. Maybe we could have the focus from up above. Actually, I'm not sure. Or do you have a?
I actually have the. I'm going to fold this one in half here. The plan that I just pulled out is the plan that you have in front of you, minus the proposed trees. And so if I put them side by side, previously on the old plan, on the one on the left, is we were grading along the side of the garage.
Yes.
All the way back and pulling those grades back, so the kind of the inside of the garage and the outside of the garage are relatively the same elevation. What the proposed plan does, the current plan, is that actually we're not going to be grading all the way along that side. Is they're going to have to build, when they build the foundation for the garage, they're actually going to have to build it up so your wood structure does not start as low. So they're going to have to build more block work, and it'll be some retaining there so we don't have to cut out there.
So, and that's a 16-inch beech, is that right? Is that what it says?
I believe it's 18. But
18, okay.
in that neighborhood.
And then the disturbance in the soil, disturbance meaning even where you're adding on top, how close will that be to the trunk?
It'll be approximately 10 to 15 feet from the trunk, where we're going to be cutting just at the corner of the garage, and when they actually build the foundation, they'll actually dig down there, but it'll be 10 to 15 feet.
Okay. Disturbance to the roots, whether it's adding soil or cutting, all can have injurious effects on the tree. I don't think you're showing tree protection fencing on that. Would the tree
We'll modify that, just because this was a recent modification after meeting with the arborist, that they thought that they could save that tree.
And how far from the trunk will that tree protection fencing be?
I'm going to try to keep it at a minimum of 10 feet. Right now, if you look, the tree protection fencing goes around. There's a tulip poplar next to that beech. Instead of bringing it in between the 2 trees like we show on the plan now, that will actually come straight out almost where it says 300. It'll come out in that direction to protect that tree, because the beech is also very shallow rooted, so we don't want any equipment riding over it either.
Right. And with the amount of work that's being done behind the house, where will equipment be coming in? And so what we'll want to do is, just as you've pointed out, you won't want equipment running over tree roots, so we need to know where trees need to be protected.
There's where the 28-inch beach is, almost in between the proposed garage and the existing house. It'll be coming more or less down that flagstone walkway there in the back to be able to access. If we come around the other side really starts to slope and the access isn't going to be as easy. I envision the access, I'm obviously not the builder, but I envision the access coming through in between where the proposed garage is and the existing dwelling to access that area to build that proposed addition. As you can see, there's a substantial number of trees, existing on the property, and the Sotheby's would like to save as many as possible. They, thought about this oak tree long and hard.
Okay, on the southeast side of the property, looks like you're building a stormwater retention system.
That's going to be a rain garden. So yes, it is a stormwater system, but it's going to be a rain garden.
So you're changing grades.
We're going to be modifying the grade there. We'll also be, planting, what was it? It was 3 magnolias, 4, and then 8 different shrubs.
Okay, but you're creating berms there. Is that what I'm seeing? To collect the water, and then there's a spillway, right?
We're actually cutting on the uphill side of it, more
Right.
closer to the house, so we'll be cutting into the hill
Right.
in that area. And then by cutting in there, then we'll actually overcut, bring in some topsoil compost mix, and then plant in that area. So we were trying to limit the amount of disturbance kind of on the downhill side where the trees are. So we've moved the disturbance closer to the house and cut on that side more than filling on the opposite side. But there will be some modification of grade on the downhill side.
Okay, and your topsoil stockpile?
That's just anticipated from where they're going to be building the patio and the house addition, is to strip that topsoil, strip the topsoil and keep it in that same vicinity. It's not going to be a huge amount of topsoil. It's close by, so we don't have to be moving it back and forth throughout the property.
My concerns is your scale's 1 to 20. I don't have my magic ruler tonight, but I've got something similar. And you're coming very close to some significant trees in both of those suggestions. You say it's not a lot of topsoil, whatever, but you're very close to your 22-inch oak tree. You're less than an inch from the trunk of that tree. So you're going to be under its canopy, which is not good. You've got a 28-inch oak to the southwest or south-southwest of your rain garden, which you're cutting into its root system. And you have a 22-inch beech almost due east of that rain garden, which you're also going to be cutting into its root system in less than an inch range. So you're in the root system of significant trees.
Unfortunately, we have almost 30 trees on this property. There's 25 or plus trees that are over 20 inches in diameter on this property, and no matter where we work on this property, we're going to be within drip lines of trees.
Right.
And to meet the township's requirements for stormwater management, for storing the topsoil we have to, it's a careful balance, and we've really tried to condense the area of construction as much as possible.
With that, would it work to elongate the rain garden more towards the upper part, I guess towards the northeast? So taking it away from those trees, making it narrower and longer, would that?
Then we have, the 24-inch tulip, or two 20-plus inch tulip trees that are, down, further to the north, that we'd be moving, closer to, consolidating here. What we've done is really just tried to push it closer to the house rather than further away. One option, I'd actually, you could actually move it all the way down, but obviously, you'd get into more trees and everything else.
Right.
So we've really tried to limit the amount of disturbance.
And it does show that you've tried, and I understand that. I'm just, at my quick glance at this, it just seems like if it were a narrower, longer oval.
If you start to get it too narrow, it's hard to plan it. It's hard for it to function. You run into a lot of other constraints. If you make it too narrow, right now the bottom of it's only about 5 feet. So we've really, it's pretty narrow. I wouldn't really recommend going any narrower, because all that you're going to wind up is with this, quick dip that's going to become a maintenance issue for the owners in the long run.
Howard, could it be pushed up toward the house at all? Would that help?
Yeah, well, in one sense, I think that's what Bill is recommending.
Pushing up, the issue with pushing it up to the house, again, I've looked at this 35 different ways. Pushing it up to the house is there's, existing improvements up by the house, and from a simple maintenance perspective, if we wanted to get a mower deck from the front of the house to the back of the house, we need, an area in between where the wall is and where the rain garden is to, something as simple as getting, a mower deck around to the back. We've, by changing the grades along the garage to try to preserve as many trees over there, we've really limited the circulation around the house. You can't get a piece of equipment now kind of along the side. Before, we had about a 6-foot flat area there. We've eliminated that area, and it's not really practical to bring your mower deck, across your walkways and everything else. So the way that a lawnmower is going to get to the back of the house here is to go around that side.
Are you accountable for the water coming off the roofs of the new garage? Or the new addition or the back of the house?
It's a volume calculation. It's based on pretty much anything that's shown in the darker hatches is considered new impervious, and there's a formula that we use up on the upper right-hand corner of the drawing to be able to determine the volume that we have to capture. And we might not be capturing the exact drop of water off of the garage, but we're going to be capturing a compensatory amount off of the existing improvements, and it's all going to the same general location.
I mean, is there actual piping going to be piped from that garage?
No, we're allowing it all to go run superficially.
Everything's going on top?
Yep. Try to limit the disturbance, don't dig up too much.
Would there be a sequencing of this job so that how this is going to get built out would all follow along that same path, and being, as I see it, this rain garden to be built first, and then sequencing this job all the way out to the driveway so that we don't run a risk of having the equipment doing a horseshoe around the other side of the house?
Unfortunately, with the rain garden, is we don't want we want that almost last in our sequence, because we don't want disturbed water getting into that nice topsoil compost, the dirty water, because that's going to clog up the system. The idea with the system is it's going to infiltrate water back into the ground. If we do it first and it gets silted in, you more or less have to redo everything. So that system can't be built until we have stabilized.
How do you do it?
We're going to have to come in. They're going to have to come in. And again, this isn't going to be that much earth moving. They're going to come in, and now I'm looking at it here. We are probably going to have to come in off of Woodcrest to get over there.
So you're going to bring your machinery from the cul-de-sac. As I see it, it would be on my right-hand side, on the east side of the house,
Correct. So we'd have to show some more tree protection on that side. You're correct.
to do this grade. To build this, would there be any material be coming out from this, or everything is just cut and fill? Is that what the whole project is?
There'll be some that comes out just because we're going to be replacing some of the soil with more of a topsoil compost, and I imagine the soil there is not going to be suitable for it. So there will be some export and some import.
So now you have to do some trucking from this to the cul-de-sac.
Yes,
So how is that going to go?
they're going to, we're going to have to put tree protection, as you accurately point out, along, this beech tree, these tulips, and try to keep them as close to the house as possible to be able to access that.
I mean, are we talking about bringing in triaxles, or what are we doing?
I believe there's going to be some back and forth with which contractor, what his capabilities are. There's a couple different versions of it. One is to bring a triaxle back and load it right up. Another option would be to use, a tracked machine with a bucket and let the tracked machine traverse rather than the triaxle. The tracked machine is going to have less ground pressure to compact the soil.
I mean, that's my biggest concern. Is that
Yeah,
it's
no,
just
my
this-
gut
this
is telling me that,
the sequencing of this,
yeah.
it's tight.
And you need to increase your tree protection fencing significantly.
Yeah, what we'll do is on the plan is make a corridor, make a 12-foot corridor from the front to the back that they have to go within that corridor. I'd be happy for you to tell the township engineer we shouldn't build the stormwater basin.
Yeah, but in addition to that, I mean, that's a significant hiccup, but, even in some of the other areas, I think your tree protection is not as adequate as it should be, especially, you've got that topsoil storage area. That needs to be better defined, given the size of the trees. The stormwater management system is definitely threatening a lot of your trees and your access to them.
It seems to me especially since the homeowners are very concerned about their trees, the way to protect it, since it looks like you will probably have construction traffic coming in two ways, one up the driveway,
Right.
and then one on the side of the house, that you essentially need tree protection fencing along the driveway. You essentially need a loop around the whole property of tree protection fencing.
A lot of the, construction of the house and the patios is going to be limited to be accessed from, the driveway area. We're going to have a piece of excavation equipment to dig the footings and foundations. After that, a lot of it's going to be, all handwork. It's going to be, moving wood, getting the wood. I don't think that they're going to, with the heights here, I don't think that they're going to really be bringing in any equipment. The only equipment that they'd be bringing in is up the driveway, to drop off a load of shingles and things like that. The rain garden itself will have, some earth moving equipment that has to come in to be able to construct it. It's basically a large landscape project is what a rain garden is. So they will, if you're doing a big planting bed and doing a garden, you're going to bring in new soil and extra soil, and if you're, doing at full depth. So this is basically what that is constructing. It's constructing a landscape bed.
right. That's why I'm expressing concern. Right, and so my strong recommendation is that there would be a tree protection fence going up along the driveway that would then go outside the area of disturbance around the new garage, and then go around the 28-inch beech tree by the new walkway, and then go between the topsoil stockpile and the 22-inch oak.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now. Yeah,
So
and
it's
just bring it
essentially
all
a
the way around.
continuous
Yep.
loop.
Yep. And then there'll be some
That would,
interior on the driveway, at least side, and
Yes.
and for some portion on the
right. So, well, right. So let me just make sure it's clear what I'm saying. That loop then goes around all the way to Woodcrest Circle on the
Yep.
northeast corner. Right. Okay. And then, yes, and then another one that would be on the inside,
Right.
coming in from Woodcrest Circle.
The pieces that I think that need to be on the inside, just for clarity's sake, is from Woodcrest Circle to the corner of the existing house, and then from Woodcrest Circle to the corner of the existing house. The house kind of acts as the barrier on the other sides.
Yeah.
I mean, would it be unreasonable to sequence this if they, say they did build this rain garden first,
Right,
to wrap it with silt fence so it doesn't get contaminated?
right.
Put up, seed it or sod or whatever they're gonna do, and then work the project out, rather than,
Then going,
I mean, just,
being the reverse, right?
say they start the job next week, going into wintertime. This gets done, this doesn't get done till spring or whatever, we're back into the wet again. And we start coming through here, I mean, with the tree protection, it will help, it just would, if it got sequenced the other way, they wouldn't be on that side at all, but I guess maybe they can't build it that way.
It's non-standard, non-recommended from the BMP manual to build it that way. I would have a concern building it this fall, having construction take place all winter, before you're gonna really get anything to grow, and have this silt up over the winter months. I think it's, I understand the impacts of the construction access, but I think that the construction of this, if you're constructing up here, you're gonna have your silt fences, but this is gonna be, exposed all winter. Pretty much anything you disturb after, another couple weeks, assuming it gets cold, isn't gonna grow.
What's going in there, besides the woody plants, what's the herbaceous plants? Is it turf or?
Right now, it'll just be mulch, and then it's up to the owner if they decide to put in any perennials, and you can put perennials and grasses, and many clients make it more of a landscape bed. Since anything we put on this plan becomes a requirement, we don't necessarily put those on this plan.
Okay, because with mulch, you're just going to end up with what you're saying, it's just going to wash down to the, so I understand that you don't want to put it in here, and if you're not required to, then I can't require you to, but I've done projects like this starting this time of year, and what you do is you cover the soil. You don't leave it bare, and it's, so it doesn't seem to me that that's a bad thing to do, especially in that would help protect the rest of the property to start with this.
Right.
And then
It ultimately would be up to Dan Malloy if he'd approve it that way.
It seems to me it would almost make sense if you're moving forward with that portion this time of the year, you sprinkle, an annual rye on it and just lock it in. Again, it depends on how far along you're going to be. But
Even with erosion control mats, I mean, you could
yeah,
get.
and that as
you can
well,
get something
right.
up for plastic, I mean, there's enough warmth by the end of the month, I mean, depends on when they start, I guess, but just a suggestion.
And your topsoil stockpile, is there any chance of moving that further away from that 22-inch oak?
I think we can shift it pretty much underneath the word patio walkway addition.
Yep.
And so if we shift it, what's that, northeast?
Mm-hmm.
More or less, I think we can take a straight line from the edge of the grading to the edge of that silt fence and, kind of respect that line as the edge, so it would maybe move, another 10 feet away.
Or more.
Or more.
Okay. Well, then we'll put into the minutes that, number one, there has to be the loop that goes around that provides your access, regardless of whether you do the rain garden now or in the spring. Number two, we will discuss with the engineer as to whether the rain garden could be constructed in the fall, with some exceptions to the standard practices.
And as far as the owner,
And-
the owner would be happy to do either.
Okay, that's good to hear. And to beef up your tree protection fence, even if you move that topsoil pile to the northeast, those trees associated in that area need to be better protected.
We'll install the tree protection, or we'll show the tree protection as described by Mr. Thomas.
Right. We are highly recommending that tree protection fence now be cyclone fence and not the plastic snow fence style. We have witnessed entirely too many.
I think that might be an issue. I think just from the extent that we just talked about, the cost differential between the two, I think, would become really prohibitive and a burden on the homeowner.
Well, I think it needs to be considered, because if he really does want to protect his trees, that's the way you do it.
Is that just
It's a recommendation.
on a do you put it on a T-frame, or how do you install it?
Just, your typical cyclone fence put on metal posts rather than plastic fence put on.
I guess my question was more related to how the posts get installed. Are the posts buried, or is it a T?
It's just sunk. It's not, you're not putting concrete bases on the,
Because, a lot of construction sites, you see them even on straight asphalt. They just have a T-frame with the cyclone fence
Right.
installed in it.
just the post that's sunk into the ground, rather than the shallow wooden 2x2 with a piece of plastic hung on it.
I just have a concern with that. I understand your recommendation. I have a concern with the cost. It probably triples the cost, or quadruples the cost of that.
Of the protection fence, yeah. But if he really wants to protect his trees, that's a much better barrier than snow fence.
Understood.
Okay.
I'd like to applaud your use of replacement trees of the white oaks.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 503 West Lancaster Avenue. Hello. If you could identify yourself.
Donna Torpy,
Okay,
General Manager of the shopping center,
okay.
and I've never done this before. so-
Okay.
Guide me through
Speak into the mic, though, please. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. And if you'd put the plan on the table such that you can read it, then it should be projected the correct way.
Okay.
And I think if you would just explain the project, what's happening, and,
Okay.
yep.
We have a building here. And where you see these gray areas.
Okay,
We're building out from that. On this corner here, it would be a conservatory.
okay,
And in the middle block here, That's an entranceway that sort of comes out and does an overhang kind of a thing. I could show you a picture better, but.
Okay.
And then here is a bumped out bay window. So it's 500 square feet in total, additions to an existing footprint of the building. And the look of it is going to be, if you can see that. Here's the conservatory,
Mm-hmm.
here's the entrance,
Okay.
and there's the big window.
Okay.
There's the trees are a pretty good representation of what's there now.
Okay.
The affected tree is in this area in here. It's a 6-inch dogwood.
Okay.
It says 6-inch dogwood to be removed.
Okay.
The reason it has to be removed, we're either going to replace it with another tree or move that tree if it's feasible. It's not in the greatest condition even now because of the stress with the parking area. And, but the reason it's being moved is because part of the plan for this building, it's going to be a single tenant use. And it's going to be, we would like it to be an it leads building.
Okay.
I can't tell you what that is, but I know it has to do with green.
Yep.
A green
We understand.
building. And where that tree is right now is where the stormwater, there's a 1,000-gallon stormwater runoff management tank that's going to be used to water the center.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, so capturing rainwater is the way.
Right. Okay.
And then using that. So the current dogwood right now is right there.
Okay.
That's the really only tree that's affected. All the other trees, existing trees,
Okay.
would stay the same.
Is there any possible threat to the existing trees from contractor, quote-unquote, abuse?
I don't believe so because
Okay.
in the back here,
Right.
the building sits so that there's an asphalt drive, an asphalt drive, back.
Parking lot, right?
Parking lot in the
Mhm.
back, and then this is all asphalt.
Mhm.
Most of the staging area would be coming through here and in this plain field over here. And most of our trees are in the front. We do have trees along the back line,
Right.
which is already under existing established greenery and buffer between the building and the driveway, the asphalt parking lot.
Okay.
So the construction is mainly going to be around the side of the building and to the front.
Mm-hmm.
This picture pretty much shows that most of the trees, it's curling up on me.
Yeah.
That are here now are on the opposite side of the parking area.
Right.
So there would be put up a construction fence that would encircle the building.
Okay.
And so it's not a major project in the sense that there's a lot of disruption on the outside, although part of the project is putting on that manufactured stone throughout the building to bring it a little more life. Right now it's a stucco building. And so there would be some of that. And then most of the work after that, those exteriors are taking place in the exterior of the building because it'll be gutted on the interior and fitted out for the single tenant use.
In front of the building where the additions are going, is there a planting bed between it and the driveway with any other trees in
Yes.
it?
There's just the one dogwood.
And that's it. So
Yeah, that's it.
if, looking at the map, to the left of the first structure that's going on. There are no trees there. In the drawing, it showed a cherry, it looked like beyond that, but that's for future use. Okay. So the only tree right next to this building is that
Is the
6-inch
dogwood.
dogwood. So,
Right.
and it will be removed from that location. You will be planting another tree somewhere
Yes.
on the property.
Yes, but most that we have right now are the honey locust trees, that, the tall trees that
Uh-huh.
are growing up within the parking lot plane. And then we have trees along Eagle Road that are very well older established trees, but that's ornamental tree. We would probably move that tree to, well, if I can't put it back, is one possibility is just, either putting that tree back or replacing it with a like kind tree. But it would be an ornamental tree of some kind. And,
So yes, so
One of the things I
another
could
tree
do
will
is
be
put-
planted on the property? Yeah,
back.
so that's, I think, the main thing that we need to have you
Put the tree
commit
back.
to, yes.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a garden spot. There's plenty of places for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see any issues with that. That's relatively minor, and thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, 805 Parks Run Lane, does not appear to be any representation. Old business. There's no old business. New business. Would like to announce that we are in the process of reviewing the current Radnor Township Shade Tree Ordinance, and there will be further information on that as we move along, most likely before the February 2011 Shade Tree Commission meeting. And we have numerous hazardous tree reports, many of which are red oaks that are suffering from the bacterial leaf scorch issue that's running through this area. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hazardous tree reports, which appear to be all confirmed. And that's pretty much the agenda. So, very good. That concludes October 2010 Shade Tree Commission meeting, and we'll be back in November.